Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Hank Holland. I am the Chairman and CEO of Amaero International Limited, and I will be chairing the meeting today. On behalf of all the directors, I'm pleased to welcome you to our annual general meeting for 2024. Thank you all for joining us this morning, and I'm pleased that we're able to host the AGM both in person and online this year. Please note the meeting today is being recorded. As it is now 11 a.m. and as a quorum is present, I declare the meeting open for business. I confirm the meeting has been properly constituted. Before we commence the formal proceedings of the meeting, I'd like to thank shareholders for their continued support this year. In attendance today are my fellow board members, Lucy Rob-Wojcik and Jamie Levy, with Eric Bono, Omer Granite, Bob Latta, and Eric Levy joining via Zoom. Also in attendance today, we have representatives from Acclaim on behalf of our company secretary and Deepak Kashyamutha from RSM, Australia, the company's auditors. Representatives from Atomic, our share register provider, are also in attendance. As previously announced, Lucy Rob-Wojcik is not standing for re-election at today's meeting and will resign from the board effective at the close of the AGM. On behalf of the entire board, I'd like to thank Lucy for her service and commitment to Amaero. Lucy's played a key and passionate role in the company, and we wish her well in the future endeavors. The virtual component of this meeting is being held via Zoom using Atomic platform, enables shareholders and proxy holders to participate in this live webcast of the meeting, as well as ask questions and submit votes. Questions can be submitted at any time. To ask a question, press on the Q&A button on the bottom ribbon of your Zoom screen, type your question in the box and press send. If you wish to ask a question verbally, please type in the Q&A box that you want to ask a verbal question. The moderators will advise myself, and then I will authorize Atomic to unmute the speaker and the shareholder can ask their question. Please note that while you can submit questions from now on, I will not address them until the relevant time in the meeting. Kindly include the agenda item number next to which your question relates. Attendees present in person has been provided with identification cards. Shareholders or proxy voters who will cast their votes during the meeting have been issued yellow cards. Shareholders or proxy holders who have already cast their votes have been issued blue cards. And visitors have been issued red cards, which indicate they're not permitted to vote or ask questions during the meeting. Shareholders or proxy holders with yellow or blue cards may ask questions at the appropriate time by raising their hand. Please note visitors with red cards are not allowed to ask questions in the meeting. Please also note that your questions may be moderated, or if we receive multiple questions on one topic, due to the time constraints, they'll be combined. We may run out of time to answer all your questions. If this happens, we'll answer them in due course via email or posting responses on our website. I ask you please keep your questions short and to the point so that as many shareholders as possible have a chance to ask a question. When we reach the formal business of the meeting, voting on all resolutions will be conducted by poll. Shareholders attending virtually and wishing to vote on the resolutions being put to the meeting can do so through Atomic's investor portal. If you're not already logged in to the investor portal, instructions on how to do so can be found in the notice of meeting. A summary of these instructions can also be seen on the screen. If you've already logged in and lodged a proxy vote, please note that you do not need to vote again through the online voting portal. Your votes will already be counted in a poll in each resolution as per your proxy instruction. If you have any problem registering your shareholder with Atomic, please call the support number shown on the screen. To allow shareholders time to log in, I now declare the poll open. Online voting is now open and will remain open until I declare it closed at the end of the formal business. Your votes must be submitted prior to the portal being closed for them to count. As for the agenda, the meeting is as follows: Chairman and CEO's presentation, to be followed by the formal business of the meeting and other business. With that, on to the formal remarks. Fiscal year 2024 was a very eventful year, and we expect to build on our progress with important milestone events in fiscal 25. Over the past 2 years, we've very intentionally positioned Amaero to address critical gaps in the U.S. domestic industrial production and supply chain capabilities. As recently discussed in investor briefing with Special Advisor H.R. McMaster, over the past 3 decades, the United States and its allies have offshored manufacturing, have hollowed out our manufacturing workforce, and have atrophied our industrial production and supply chain capabilities. We've sharply consolidated the aerospace and defense prime contractors from 51 primes down to 5 primes. Metal casting capacity in the United States has declined from over 6,000 foundries to 1,750 foundries, a decline of over 70%. As a specific example, resilient, sustainable, and scalable metal castings and forgings are critical to manufacturing throughput for the aerospace and defense sectors. Yet U.S. domestic capacity for large castings and forgings has contracted by 80%. Our untenable reliance on a single company in Russia, VSMPO, for critical forging capacity became evident with the Ukraine conflict. The United States Department of Defense has identified castings and forgings as one of our 4 focus areas that pose a critical threat to national security. Unlike the Cold War, when the United States and its allies were threatened by a single axis of evil, the USSR, today we face more volatile geopolitical tensions and more capable adversaries that include not only Russia, but a tyrannical dictator in North Korea, theocratic and jihadist leadership in Iran, and an emerged competing superpower in China. For the first time, the U.S. has ceded primacy capabilities to adversaries, including offensive and defensive hypersonic capabilities. And China has quickly built industrial manufacturing and supply chain capabilities that dwarf the U.S. and its allies. Nowhere is this more evident than the naval and submarine industrial base. Our atrophied industrial base capabilities threaten our national security. Moreover, the volatile geopolitical backdrop, coupled with China's race to buttress its military, have focused bipartisan support and created a call to action with the U.S. government initiatives emanating from the White House, Capitol Hill, and the Pentagon. With U.S. elections front of mind, it's also important to remember that we not only hollowed out our manufacturing capability, but we destroyed good, skilled, high-paying manufacturing jobs. Whether a Trump administration or a Harris administration, the to-be president and bipartisan congressional leadership strongly support reestablishing and incentivizing growth of the manufacturing economy. Amaero's vision is simple. With a singular focus, Amaero will deliver U.S. domestic capabilities that address critical gaps in industrial production and the supply chain for advanced materials and advanced manufacturing. With threatened national security as the call to action, and with U.S. national policy initiatives as a catalyst, the thematic opportunity and the strategic importance will last for decades. Amaero has moved boldly to establish both a first mover advantage and a defensive moat. As a small business, we've moved with a sense of urgency. We've been more agile than larger industrial competitors. At the same time, we have not waited for federal funding or contracts. Over the past year alone, we raised Australian $55 million to stand up foundational capabilities. By the end of the fiscal year, we expect to have funded and to have substantially completed Amaero's foundational capabilities. The capital investment will have funded the commissioning of the first atomizer and the ancillary powder processing equipment, the research, development, and testing laboratory, the commissioning of a second atomizer and ancillary powder processing equipment, the commission of dedicated PM-HIP manufacturing area, the substantial completion of improvements to 100,000 square foot manufacturing and corporate office headquarters. We also expect to have ordered a third atomizer and have it under assembly with delivery in calendar year 2026. Importantly, the forward-leaning capital investment positions Amaero as the largest and the most responsive U.S. domestic producer of C103 refractory and specialty alloy powders. The capital investment provides sufficient scale to grow production over the foreseeable future and positions Amaero with a differentiated and defensible market position. Importantly, the forward-leaning capital investment also is not only strategic, but it's coupled with a pioneering technical and operating team and the most advanced technology. This positions Amaero to be a leader in advanced material and advanced manufacturing for decades to come. Amaero is focused on high value, specialty advanced materials, and high-value specialty manufacturing. U.S. domestic production of C103 refractory and titanium spherical powders are the consumable for additive manufacturing or 3D printing of high-value parts of the defense, space, aerospace, and medical industries. And specialty powder production will be the core of Amaero's business. With a singular focus on producing high-value specialty powders, with the technical and operating team's pioneering experience, and with the industry-leading technology, Amaero is positioned to be the leading U.S. domestic manufacturer of high-value and specialty powders, and with the largest capacity and the most responsive production. Given the high melting temperature of refractory elements such as niobium, zirc, moly, and tungsten, only the electrode induction gas atomizer, or EIGA technology, is capable of qualification and production at scale. Amaero has the only EIGA premium to be commissioned in the United States, expects to commission a second EIGA premium by the end of the fiscal year, and plans to order a third EIGA premium. We're building a capability and capacity that will have enduring competitive advantage in a highly strategic area of advanced materials. Given the inadequate production capacity for large castings and forgings, PM-HIP manufacturing of near-net shape parts is equally strategic. And akin to Amaero's competitive positioning for powder production, Amaero's team brings decades of pioneering experience to PM-HIP, and the competitive landscape is limited. For PM-HIP, there are a combination of research, development, testing, evaluation, or RD&T&E opportunities, as well as serial production opportunities. Likewise, there are MRO needs and there are new program of record needs. And finally, there are strong demand signals from the submarine industrial base, and there are strong demand signals from industrial sectors such as oil and gas. As mentioned above, Amaero has been very intentional to stand up and scale capabilities that address critical vulnerabilities in the supply chain and that deliver attractive unit economics. Given the high temperature properties of C103 and refractory alloys, the materials are used for thermal protection and for propulsion systems in defense and space components. Prior to Amaero, there was a sole U.S. domestic supplier that had qualified C103. With accelerated adoption of metal 3D printing and with high performance material properties increasingly needed to go faster, i.e. hypersonic platforms, to go deeper in space, i.e. hotter burning propulsion systems, and to operate in more extreme conditions, i.e. nuclear reactor systems, U.S. domestic production of refractory alloy powders is highly strategic. As for metal additive manufacturing of high-value components, Castheon and CAM combine for leading market share position amongst Tier 1 suppliers. As previously announced, Amaero recently completed qualification of C103 powder to Castheon specifications and has commenced a 5-year preferred supplier agreement with ADMAN and its subsidiaries, Castheon and CAM. In addition to the preferred supplier agreement, Castheon has signed an offtake agreement for 2.25 tons of C103 powder, and it's expected that the offtake obligation will be shipped in calendar year 25. The other important gap in the supply chain is PM-HIP manufacturing of near net shape parts as a viable substitute for large castings and forgings. Amaero's team, including Eric Bono, Dr. Dave Schmidt, Fred Yolton, and Dr. Ron Amon, bring decades of pioneering experience in numerical modeling and powder metallurgy that are essential to achieving cast and forge-like properties for near net shape parts. It was a very busy fiscal 24 with all milestones achieved ahead of schedule. Amaero announced its relocation to Tennessee not much more than 1 year ago in July 2023. The selection of Tennessee was driven by a number of factors that included securing a 15-year lease on a newly built high-volume manufacturing building that eliminated the need for a custom build-to-suit facility and resulted in estimated savings of approximately Australian $37 million in CapEx and working capital. In addition to ongoing tax abatement and various credits, Amaero received cash incentive commitments in excess of Australian $1 million from the state of Tennessee, Bradley County, and Tennessee Valley Authority. And importantly, Amaero received a subsidized 10-year contract for electricity at approximately 5.8 cents a kilowatt hour. With relocation to the United States, we quickly assembled a pioneering technical team in specialty alloy powder production that included, as mentioned, Eric Bono, Fred Yelton, and Dr. Dave Schmidt. And given the demand pull from U.S. government-funded laboratories, tier one suppliers, and prime contractors, Amaero announced that we would prioritize C103, refractory, and specialty alloy powder production. In November of last year, Pegasus led a third capital raise. Shortly thereafter, Amaero announced it had ordered a second atomizer. In January, Fairmont Consulting Group completed a comprehensive market study that focused on the demand signal for C103 spherical powder. The study estimated that demand in FY28 would equal 105 tons, and that the anticipated growth reflected a 5-year CAGR, or compounded annual growth rate, of 62%. The specialty market has volume that's unlikely to attract large-scale competition. Yet the price of C103 powder is approximately 20 times higher than titanium powder, which is 5 times higher than stainless steel. In late March, we began a 6-month period that included numerous transformative milestones. These included announcing an offtake and preferred supplier agreement coupled with a $20 million institutional capital raise. Early June, Amaero announced the first atomizer had been commissioned ahead of schedule. In July, we announced that Lieutenant General H.R. McMaster, former National Security Advisor to President Trump, had joined Amaero as special advisor. Then in early September, we announced we'd achieved qualification of C103 to cast-iron specifications, again ahead of schedule. With qualification, Amaero also disclosed that Adman and all its subsidiaries, including Cast-iron and CAM, were counterparty to the offtake agreement and a 5-year preferred supplier agreement. This followed shortly thereafter with an upsized Australian $25 million institutional capital raise. Finally, in the recently lodged quarterly activity report, Amaero announced its first quarter with material revenue and the receipt of approximately Australian 800,000 of government grant funding. The reported revenues exceeded $1 million and reflected approximately 600,000 from powder sales and 450,000 from P&HIP manufacturing. The quarterly report also highlighted recent awards that totaled $1.1 million to support the submarine industrial base, an indication that Amaero expects to receive additional contracts supporting the submarine industrial base. All in all, it was a productive year, and Amaero's position has shifted its focus from commissioning and qualification to commercialization efforts in calendar year 2025. We provided prior guidance that Amaero expects to begin scaling revenue in the back half of FY25 and expects an EBITDA loss in line with FY24. The company also guided it expects to accelerate revenue scaling in FY26 and to achieve EBITDA breakeven. As we close out the calendar year 2024, the team is focused on concluding final production chemistry and atomization/post-processing for C103 and Ti-64. We expect to commence commercial sales, including the offtake obligation of Adman, in the back half of the fiscal year. Additionally, we have commenced providing powder samples to prospective customers, and we expect to secure other multi-year preferred supplier agreements. We also expect to build on our collaboration with U.S. government-funded laboratories to support the atomization of development alloys and to support the urgent priority to advance various programs from RDT&E to production. As for PM-HIP manufacturing, Amaero's differentiated market position, coupled with strong demand for viable alternatives to large castings and forgings, has resulted in stronger than expected demand signal. Amaero is engaged in numerous RDT&E projects that leverage the team's experience in numerical modeling, powder metallurgy, and PM-HIP manufacturing of near net-shaped parts. We're also engaged in discussions with the submarine industrial base and with oil and gas industry for serial production parts. Given the strong secular growth for specialty alloy powders and for PM-HIP manufacturing, given the specialty nature of the products, given Amaero's singular focus, we expect strong year-over-year revenue growth over the next 5+ years and expect to achieve attractive unit economics. H.R. McMaster and myself recently had productive meetings on Capitol Hill. Though given my impatient nature, I feel there should be a greater sense of urgency and more aggressive call to action, akin to the arsenal of democracy effort supporting World War II. That said, there is resolute and bipartisan commitment to reshore industrial production and supply chain capabilities. There's a recognition that the threat to national security is imminent and a worry that parallels General Marshall's axiom: when we had time, we had no money. And when we had money, we ran out of time. The U.S. Senate's proposed FY25 Defense Appropriations Act increases spending by $27.2 billion over fiscal year 24. And the budget has significant increases in appropriations focused on reshoring industrial-based capabilities. White House and congressional initiatives have included the Inflation Reduction Act, or IRA, and the CHIPS Act, as well as programs created by executive order, such as the Make More in America initiative at Exim Bank. Congress has appropriated increased funding for Defense Production Act, Title III, for defense programs, including the Industrial Base Analysis and Sustainment, or IBAS, the Office of Strategic Capital, and the National Security Innovation Capital. Last week alone, the federal government licensed the first cohort of investors under the Public-Private Partnership Small Business Investment Company Critical Tech Initiative. It's expected to inject $2.8 billion into small businesses that are deemed critical to industrial production and the supply chain. The Small Business Administration will match private investments 2-to-1 to encourage funding direct to small businesses that it can enhance the resiliency and scalability of the U.S. industrial base. The continuum of innovative programs that include outright grants, equity investments, and subsidized debt reaffirms the national policy priority to reshore critical industrial base capabilities. We have been engaged with the U.S. government parties for a year, and we're confident that Amaero will secure government subsidized support in FY25. As it relates to Amaero's manufacturing and corporate headquarter facility near Chattanooga, Tennessee, we have completed improvements for the first atomizer and the post-processing area. We remain on target to place a purchase order, for the third atomizer near calendar year end. The second atomizer is currently being assembled in Germany and is on schedule to ship in March and to be commissioned by the end of the fiscal year. Given the strong demand signal for PM-HIP, we are redesigning and enlarging the production area and the ancillary equipment to support higher throughput production. We remain on schedule for substantial completion of the facility by fiscal year end. As I have stated many times, we are committed to build a business with enduring value. We are committed to build long-term shareholder value for long-term shareholders. Thank you very much.